Nobody stands at the counter and announces they're finished with Glock. One day you just grab a different pistol, toss the old one in the safe, and move on. No speeches, no warning. That's how it started for me, and probably for you too. I carried Glocks for years, swore I'd never need anything else. Then something small changed. Maybe a sore hip, maybe a grip that felt off, maybe just the itch to try something different. Quietly, I started reaching for other guns. Didn't talk about it. Didn't even admit it to myself at first. The Glock stayed loaded, just didn't get worn. This isn't some shopping guide, and nobody here is pretending to have answers. I'm not saying these pistols are better, just that, looking back, I stopped carrying my Glock a lot quieter than I ever expected. The real reason for all those switches? That only showed up after the fact, and it's never what people say out loud. There's a guy at my range who came in on a humid Texas afternoon with 3 pistols to trade. 2 were impulse buys. The third, a Glock, looked like it had ridden every season on his belt. No big explanation. He handed them over and said, "I don't need it anymore." Eyes already drifting to the Canik in the case. You could tell that Glock wasn't a failure. He loved it through winter. Thick jacket, cold mornings, grip never slipping. But by the time summer hit, sweat started pooling. Grip got slick, edge of the frame left a raw patch on his side. Day after day, it got tougher to carry, and by the time evening rolled in, even reaching for it felt like work. He tried the Canik TP9 SF Elite right there at the counter. No sales pitch, just held it, gave the slide a rack, and nodded. Something about the Canik just sat easier in his hand. Lighter, smoother, nothing to fight against in the heat. It wasn't about specs, it was about relief. He left with that Canik. Didn't brag, didn't look back. And standing there, I got it. Sometimes you let go of an old gun, not because it failed, but because another one finally made daily life easier, at least for now. I saw him outside the diner one morning, routine as ever. Same ball cap, coffee in one hand, elbow resting on the door like it's his own place. He'd always had a Glock 26 printing under his shirt, worn in so deep you could guess the model by the outline. But this time, something was off. The bulge rode a little higher. Shape just different enough to catch my eye. When he caught me looking, he grinned and tapped the holster. "Just fits better now." Didn't act like it mattered, no big deal. Turns out he'd switched to a Ruger RXM. No drama, just easier on his hands. Arthritis, he said, not getting any younger. The grip was softer, draw didn't bite, and that was enough. He didn't trade stories or give advice. For him, it was about what felt right, getting out of the truck in the morning, not what worked 10 years ago. Swapped one habit for another with nobody watching and nothing to prove. And just when you think that's as far as it goes, there's always someone who finds comfort in something even smaller. Sometimes for reasons they don't talk about. The next switch, as quiet as the last, even me off guard. A friend of mine works at a real estate office. Always dressed sharp, buttoned down, tucked tight, thin belt, slim pants. He carried a Glock for years, but you could tell it was always a fight. The grip dug in every time he sat at his desk, and after lunch, the outline always showed through his shirt. He never talked about it, just fidgeted or shifted in his chair, thinking nobody noticed. One week, that all changed. I caught up with him at a coffee shop, and his movement was different, relaxed, jacket off, laughing easy, no printing. When I asked, he just smiled and pulled up his shirt to flash the SIG P365X macro. "Fits better," he said. That was it. He didn't rave about capacity or triggers. It was about feeling normal, slipping into a meeting, leaning back in a chair, no more fighting with his own clothes. The Glock stayed home, and he didn't seem to miss it. But knowing him, I could already see it. Checking his waistband in the window as he left. Still searching for the perfect fit. These switches are quiet, but they never really stop. And for some folks, the next pick isn't about subtlety at all. It's about making a statement nobody can ignore. Somebody once said, "I heard Glock stops being the default once shooters stop copying each other." I laughed it off at the time, but I can't lie. It stuck. makes you look at your own belt a little differently. A few days later, I was out running errands and ducked into a shop to kill some time. Didn't need anything. Glock was back home, same as always. But on the used shelf, a Beretta APX-A1 caught my eye. Wasn't even looking for it. Picked it up, gave it a dry fire. It felt different. Not better, not worse, just different enough to notice. Didn't buy it, didn't brag. Just put it down, grabbed a soda, and left. But on the drive home, that line played in my head again. Was I ever making my own choices or just following the crowd? A couple days later, I found myself searching up APX-A1 videos while waiting for takeout. Never told anyone, never made a move, but that itch was there. Sometimes all it takes is a rumor, and suddenly you can't stop wondering what else might actually fit you, not just the crowd. Days gone, week later, someone tossed a pistol case on the table at the diner, popped it open, and said, "Bet you've never carried one of these." Turns out I hadn't, but after that, I couldn't get it out of my head. Last December, I ran into a local cop. Not a big scene, just two folks waiting on coffee at a corner store, both half awake. Out of habit, I brought up Glock, assuming we were talking the same language. He didn't say a word, just tapped his holster with two fingers and gave me that quiet cop smile. His shirt shifted a little, and just for a second, I caught the curve of a VP9 SK grip. No lecture, no sales pitch, just a silent, "Not everybody's on the same train." He paid for his coffee and left. Standing there, it hit me how easy it is to assume every badge, every belt, every regular in town is packing a Glock. Like that's just the rule. But there's a lot more switching going on than folks admit. Most of it's quiet, no drama, no announcements, just a new gun in an old holster. And you wouldn't even notice unless you're really looking. After that, I started paying closer attention. Turns out the folks you never expect are the ones making the next switch. Sometimes for reasons nobody talks about out loud. I didn't buy it to replace my Glock. That wasn't the plan. One afternoon, I picked up the M&P 9 2.0 compact, dry fired it twice, and noticed my grip pressure felt calmer. No magic, just easier. At the range, nothing stood out. It shot fine. There weren't any miracles on paper, no stories to brag about, just a pistol that didn't fight me, didn't leave my hand tired. Maybe that's what comfort actually looks like when you're not looking for it. Later that night, I went to put my carry back on. The Glock felt louder against my side, like a presence I'd gotten too used to. For the first time, I didn't set it on my nightstand before bed, didn't announce a switch, didn't tell anybody. Sometimes you don't realize you've moved on until you're halfway gone. All it takes is one quiet night with something new, and you start to wonder how long you've been sticking with the old just because it was there. Next up, there's a pistol that never played by the usual rules. Built for folks chasing control, precision, or just a new answer nobody else saw coming. I'd had a CZ P10C sitting in my drawer for years. Bought it back when curiosity got the best of me, then let it collect dust. Every so often, I'd pick it up, maybe dry fire it, but the Glock always stayed on my belt. A couple of months back, I got frustrated. Same old pinch from the Glock, same ache in my wrist after a long day. Instead of grabbing something new, I just dug out the P10C. No expectations, no big plan. I brought it out to the range just to see if I'd missed something all these years. It didn't blow me away, but after a longer session, heat, sweat, hands starting to give out, I realized my groups were still solid. The gun wasn't fighting me. That bothered me more than I wanted to admit. I didn't switch that day. I didn't rush home and swap out my carry. But something changed. I stopped defending Glock so hard. Sometimes the gun that's yours is just the one you've worn longest, not the one that actually fits you best. And even now, the P10C sits closer to the top of the drawer. Quiet, reliable. A reminder that switching doesn't always look like a big moment. Sometimes it's just stopping yourself from making the same old argument. "Clear it!" That's all I heard. Yelled sharp across the range. Arizona sun, sweat burning my eyes. My friend's Glock jammed halfway through a drill. The slide slammed home, and he was back on target before I blinked. But something felt different, like nobody trusted their own hands for a second. Later that night, he sat across from me at a diner booth, Glock on the table between us. He wasn't looking at it, wasn't even talking about it, just spun the Hellcat Pro in his hand over and over like he was waiting for it to answer first. He didn't say, "I'm switching," didn't announce anything at all. We paid, left, and next morning he was wearing a different gun. Never asked me what I thought, never told anybody what changed. But after that night, every time I saw him, I wondered if trust is really about function or just about the doubts you keep to yourself. Some questions stick around a lot longer than most pistols do. Funny thing, some folks don't need a failure or a story to make a switch. I knew another guy who bought a Taurus GX4 carry just because the grip felt right at the shop counter. No drama, no debate, just one look in the mirror and a decision nobody else saw coming. Last spring, my buddy Bob had to travel and asked if I'd hold on to his Taurus GX4 carry for a week. No big deal, I figured it would sit in the safe, but on a whim, I strapped it on one morning. Didn't think twice about it. Turns out the thing almost disappeared at my waist. It was lighter, sat just right, and made running errands or getting in and out of the truck feel like I'd finally stopped fighting my own gear. Didn't expect that. Didn't talk about it either, just kept wearing it through the week, even at home, even on the couch. By the time Bob came to pick it up, I realized I wasn't ready to hand it back. There wasn't a big argument or some aha moment, just a quiet sense that I'd gotten used to how easy things could be. After he left, I caught myself looking up prices and reviews, wondering how long I'd put up with a Glock that felt like more work than it should. It's never about a dramatic problem. The smallest taste of real comfort can change everything. And once you feel it, you don't look at the old routine the same way again. But hang on, don't get too comfortable. The biggest surprise hasn't even shown up yet. There's an older guy at my range, late 40s, early 50s, quiet, steady, carried Glock for years. Not a fanboy, just routine. One afternoon, I noticed him running drills with a Walter PDP. I figured it was a rental, but after the session, I had to ask why the change. He didn't trash Glock, just shrugged and said, "My hand started telling me the truth before my brain did." Ever catch yourself making small grip fixes without thinking? He said nothing was wrong with his Glock. No malfunctions, no drama, but after longer sessions, his grip kept shifting, shots drifted, and he found himself correcting instead of shooting. Picking up the PDP happened almost by accident. First mag felt odd. Second, easier. By the third, it felt familiar in a way Glock hadn't in years. What got me was what he said next. I didn't feel faster. I felt quieter. Isn't that what we're all chasing? Something that just lets you relax? He still owns the Glock, still respects it. But when he leaves the house, it's the Walther on his belt. Not because it's better, but because it asks less from him. That's how most Glock owners actually switch. Quietly, with nothing to prove. It's one thing to hear rumors about police departments ditching their Glocks, but this time it's real. Houston made the switch to the FN 509 Compact back in 2026. No press, no debate, just a quiet transition that most folks missed unless they were paying close attention. You won't see officers bragging about it online, but if you talk to armorers or keep an eye on duty holsters at the range, you notice more of those FNs showing up. Houston's move wasn't about chasing trends or fancy upgrades. They just wanted something that worked. Simple, reliable, easy for new recruits and old-timers to adapt. It's strange, honestly. A city where Glock used to be the standard, and now, almost overnight, the FN 509 Compact is riding in squad cars all over town. Makes you wonder how many other departments have quietly moved on without making noise about it. Maybe cops are just less sentimental than the rest of us, or maybe they see the writing on the wall before anyone else does. I didn't want to like it. The price felt suspicious, the brand unfamiliar. Everything about the Eric's Delta Generation 2 seemed like a shortcut, a budget move, not something meant to stick. But carrying it was a different story. It sat flatter against my body than my Glock ever did. No digging, no awkward printing, just easy. And honestly, that annoyed me more than it impressed me. Cheap guns aren't supposed to do that. Every morning I put it on, I found myself paying attention to how little I noticed it. The comfort crept in, quiet, uninvited. I kept waiting for it to prove my doubts right, but it never did. I didn't tell my friends, didn't start pitching it to anybody else, just kept wearing the RX, quietly realizing that comfort sometimes comes from the last place you expect. Ever get irritated when the thing you dismiss actually turns out to fit your life better? That's how Glock owners end up switching too. One silent, grudging step at a time. And just when you think you've found the last surprise, something else pops up behind the counter and changes the conversation all over again. The last time I stopped by my gunsmith shop, he set down his tools and said, "You know, Glock owners ask different questions than they used to." He wasn't talking about reliability or parts or even price. But these days it's, do I actually like carrying this? Or does this fit my life better than my old Glock? That shift was on display right at the counter. People picked up the PSA Dagger Micro, not because it was the cheapest or newest, but because it just felt right. They'd rack the slide, test the trigger, slip it in a holster, and you could see the gears turning. Maybe it isn't about being a Glock guy anymore. Maybe it's about chasing what's comfortable, what feels easy, what doesn't ask for compromise. Ever caught yourself reaching for something just because it makes your day smoother, not because it's what you're supposed to use? The Dagger Micro isn't trying to be a legend. It's just quietly making converts out of folks who thought they'd never switch, one honest question at a time. So here's what I saw after all the switching. None of these pistols knocked out my Glock for good. Each one patched up a problem until a new pain showed up. Weight, printing, bite, or just that urge to try something different. The hunt was never about guns. It was chasing a feeling that faded every time real life kicked back in. No shame in swapping guns. No failure in walking away from a pistol that stopped feeling right. Truth is, every Glock owner I know has a story like this. One they keep to themselves, but you can spot it in the way they talk about the one that got away. If you've quietly left a gun behind, even the Glock you swore by, you're not the only one. The search never really stopped. Stay sharp out there. I'm Steve, and you know where to find me.